the night shift at Greenlawn Cemetery. Look, I need to tell someone about this. My therapist says writing it down might help, but honestly, I think she just doesn't want to hear about it anymore. Can't say I blame her. I used to work night security at Greenlawn Cemetery. Used to, past tense. That's important. The job posting made it sound easy enough. Patrol the grounds from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. 4 nights a week. Make sure nobody's vandalizing headstones or doing whatever stupid teenager stuff teenagers do in cemeteries. The pay was decent, better than my last gig at the warehouse, and I've never been someone who scares easy. Death doesn't bother me. Dead people are just, dead. It's the living ones who'll stab you in a parking lot for your wallet. That's what I told myself anyway. My first 2 weeks were boring as hell. I'd drive the golf cart along the paved paths, shine my flashlight at nothing in particular, and listen to podcasts. True crime, mostly. Ironic, I guess. The cemetery was actually kind of peaceful at night. Quiet. The headstones caught the moonlight in this soft way, and there was something almost comforting about being around people who couldn't judge you, couldn't want anything from you. The older section was my favorite for a while. Headstones from the 1800s, worn down so you could barely read the names. There was this one, a little girl named Margaret Ann Holloway, died in 1887 at age 7. Scarlet fever, probably, or one of those old diseases we don't think about anymore. Someone still left flowers there sometimes. Fresh ones. I never saw who. Everything changed 3 weeks in. November 15th. I remember because it was 2 days after my ex-wife's birthday, and I'd been in a shit mood all week. I was doing my usual rounds, maybe 1 a.m. or so, when I noticed someone standing near the mausoleum in the west section. Not unusual exactly. Sometimes you get grieving family members who can't sleep, people who need to talk to someone they've lost. I'm supposed to politely tell them the cemetery closes at dusk and escort them out, but I usually give them a few minutes. We've all got our pain. But this person, they weren't moving, just standing there, facing away from me, completely still. "Hey," I called out, keeping my voice gentle. "Cemetery's closed, friend. I'm gonna need you to head out." Nothing. They didn't even turn around. I got closer, maybe 20 feet away now. My flashlight beam caught them full on, and that's when my brain started sending up warning flares. Their clothes were wrong. Not just old-fashioned, but wrong in a way I couldn't quite process. A long, dark coat, too formal, and they were too pale, like paper white. "Sir?" My voice cracked a little. "Ma'am?" They turned around, and I want to be really clear about what I saw, because people always think you're exaggerating or misremembering in the dark. I had my high-powered flashlight pointed right at them. I saw their face clearly. They didn't have eyes. Not like they'd been injured or anything. There were just smooth spaces where eyes should be. And their mouth opened, wider than a mouth should open, and this sound came out. Not a scream, not words, just this low, hollow moan that seemed to come from everywhere at once. I ran. I'm not proud of it, but I ran back to that golf cart and drove straight to the security office. Sat there with every light on, door locked until the sun came up. Called in sick for my next 2 shifts. My supervisor, Dale, he wasn't happy when I finally came back. Asked me what happened. I told him I'd seen something that spooked me, and he laughed. Actually laughed. "You saw old Thomas," he said, like this explained everything. "Who?" "Thomas Blackwood, buried here in 1923. Lots of guards see him. He's harmless." I stared at Dale like he'd grown a second head. "You're telling me this place is actually haunted, and you didn't think to mention that in the interview?" Dale shrugged. "Would you have taken the job?" Fair point. He told me some people see things, some people don't, that I should just ignore it, stick to the main paths, don't go into the old section after midnight, like that was normal workplace advice. Oh, and don't use the bathroom in the East Chapel. The sink turns on by itself sometimes. I should have quit right then, should have walked out and found literally any other job. But you know what stopped me? Pride, stupidity, the fact that rent was due in 2 weeks. Take your pick. So I went back to work, and I kept my head down, avoided the west section entirely, turned my podcast up louder, told myself that whatever I'd seen was just shadows, or someone in a costume trying to scare the new guy, or a hallucination brought on by too much coffee and not enough sleep. It worked for about a week. Then I met Sarah. I was sitting in the golf cart, taking a break near the fountain in the center of the cemetery, when I heard crying, soft like someone trying to keep quiet. I found her sitting on a bench near the children's section, her face in her hands. She looked up when she heard me approach. Mid-30s maybe, dark hair, wearing jeans and a sweater. Normal, real. "I'm sorry," she said, wiping her eyes. "I know I'm not supposed to be here. I needed to visit my daughter. Today's her birthday. Was her birthday." My heart broke a little. "I'm sorry for your loss," I said, and I meant it. "Take all the time you need. I'll just be over there if you need anything." We talked maybe 20 minutes. Her daughter, Emily, had died in a car accident 2 years ago. She was 8. Sarah told me about Emily's laugh, about how she'd wanted to be a veterinarian, about the last conversation they'd had. I mostly just listened. Before she left, she thanked me, said I was kind, asked if I worked here often, and I said, yeah, most nights. "Be careful," she said, and something in her voice made me pay attention. "This place, it's not right after midnight. Promise me you'll be careful." I promised. She left, and I went back to my rounds feeling oddly better, like maybe some of the sadness in this place could be healed with a little human kindness, you know? The next night, I saw her again. Same bench, same clothes, same tears. I walked over. "Sarah, you okay?" She looked up, and her face was the same, but something was off. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Who's Sarah?" My blood went cold. You're Sarah. We talked last night about Emily."
Her smile grew wider, too wide. "I don't have a daughter," she said. "I don't have anything anymore." Then she stood up, and I realized I could see the bench through her, just slightly, like she was made of smoke or fog or something that wanted to be solid but couldn't quite manage it. "You seem lonely," she said, taking a step toward me. "Do you want to stay with us? We have so many stories to tell, so many voices that need to be heard." I backed away, fumbling for my flashlight, my radio, anything. "Stay away from me." "But you were so kind," she said, and her voice had changed, gotten deeper, multiplied. It sounded like dozens of people talking at once. "We've been so alone. We just want someone to listen, someone to stay." I ran again, seeing a pattern here, but this time something followed me. I could hear footsteps behind me, keeping pace no matter how fast I moved. Could hear whispers, dozens of voices all talking over each other, saying things I couldn't quite make out, but that filled me with this deep animal terror. I made it to the golf cart, keyed the ignition with shaking hands. The voices were right behind me now, so close I could feel cold breath on my neck. The cart lurched forward, and I drove like hell toward the front gate. When I looked in the rearview mirror, there were dozens of them, figures in old clothes, new clothes, no clothes, standing in the middle of the path, watching me go, all of them with that same too wide smile. I called Dale from my car in the parking lot, told him I quit. He tried to talk me out of it, said they were just testing me, that it gets better once they know you're not afraid. "Not afraid?" I shouted into the phone. "Dale, what the fuck is wrong with this place? What's actually buried here?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "It's a cemetery. Dead things are buried here. But some of them, they don't stay buried. Not really. They're lonely. They're confused. They don't understand they're dead. The best guards, the ones who last, they learn to coexist, to show respect, to listen when the dead need to talk. That's insane." "Maybe, but it's true. Look, I get it. This job isn't for everyone. But the dead, they're not evil. They're just stuck. And sometimes they need someone from the living world to acknowledge them, to hear them, to remember that they existed in some form. I hung up on him, drove home, took a shower hot enough to burn, drank 4 beers, and passed out on my couch. But here's the thing, and this is the part that my therapist doesn't want to hear, the part that keeps me up at night. I think Dale was right. Because I started doing research, trying to find rational explanations, and I found Sarah's obituary. Sarah Catherine Chen died November 3rd, buried at Greenlawn Cemetery. No surviving children, no Emily. She'd been dead for 15 years. And that little girl, Margaret Ann Holloway, she's still there, still waiting. I looked up her records. Her parents both died young, within a year of her death. She was buried alone, no other family, nobody to remember her except whoever leaves those flowers. And Thomas Blackwood, the one Dale said guards always see, he was a night watchman at Greenlawn, died of a heart attack on duty in 1923. Maybe he never realized he could leave. I've had 4 different jobs since I quit Greenlawn 3 months ago. Can't seem to hold any of them down. I keep thinking about what Dale said, about the dead being lonely, about needing someone to listen. Sometimes, late at night, I dream about that cemetery, about all those voices trying to tell their stories, about Sarah, who lost herself so completely she forgot she ever had a daughter to lose, about Thomas, still making his rounds after 100 years, about Margaret Ann, still 7 years old, still waiting for her parents to come back. And here's what really scares me, what I haven't told anyone, not even my therapist. Part of me wants to go back, not because I'm brave, not because I think I can help, but because I understood something that night, in those few terrifying moments before I ran. The dead aren't scary because they're evil or monstrous. They're scary because they're us. They're what we all become. And they're so desperately lonely that they'll reach out to anyone who can see them, anyone who'll acknowledge that they still exist in some form. I saw an ad for a night security position at a different cemetery yesterday, Oakwood Memorial, across town. Better pay, they said. Quiet work environment. I've got the application pulled up on my laptop right now. Haven't filled it out yet. Keep hovering my cursor over the submit button, then closing the tab, then opening it again. My ex-wife called last week, first time in 6 months, asked if I was okay, said she'd heard I wasn't doing well. I almost told her everything, almost explained about Greenlawn, about Sarah, about the truth that's been eating me since that November night. But how do you explain to someone that you're terrified of death, but also drawn to it? That you spent your whole life thinking dead people were just gone, and now you know they're not. They're still there, still conscious, still trapped in whatever last emotion or thought or moment held them when they died. How do you explain that you ran away from the dead, but now all you can think about is going back, about listening to their stories, acknowledging their existence, maybe bringing them some small comfort in their eternal loneliness? Maybe that makes me crazy, probably does. Or maybe it makes me human. I don't know anymore. What I do know is that everyone ends up in a cemetery eventually. We all die. We all get buried or burned or scattered somewhere. And maybe, if we're unlucky, or if we hold on too tight to what we've lost, we don't really leave. We just stay there, in the dark, waiting for someone who can see us, someone who'll listen, someone who cares that we existed at all. My cursor's on the submit button again. Dale said the best guards learn to coexist with the dead, to show respect, to listen. I think about that a lot. I think maybe I'm about to find out if he was right. God help me. I think I'm about to submit this application. I'll let you know how it goes. If you don't hear from me, well, maybe check Oakwood Memorial some night after midnight. I might be there making my rounds, listening to stories only I can hear. Or maybe I'll be one of them, waiting by a bench or a mausoleum,
hoping someone kind will stop and acknowledge that I'm still here, still trying to be heard, still so terribly, eternally alone.